The Nats Chat end-of-season podcast party will be at Walters at 7 p.m. on Friday night, October 10th. Spread the word among your friends. We're aiming for our highest attendance yet to celebrate our 5th season of coverage. Walters is located across the street from the ballpark.
The set by Lee, the pitch to Wood, swung on, hit of the air to deep right center field. Acuña's watching this one, and it is gone. Goodbye. Over the 16-foot wall and tucks down into the Braves bullpen. Bang! Zoom goes James Wood to get the Nationals within a run and waves to the Nationals relievers in the bullpen. His 28th homer, his 90th run batted in. And this is now a one-run game here in the top of the 8th inning with a leadoff home run. It's Atlanta 3 and Washington 2. Now the next on the way, the pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out with a slider, and the game is over. Iglesias with his 28th save secures the win for rookie right-hander Hurston Waldrop, who will move to 6-1. Brad Lord pitched well over 6 innings, allowed 2 solo homers. Will take the loss and fall to 5-9.
And welcome to Nats Chat. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. My usual co-host, my usual tag team partner, MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman. He is off for this installment of the podcast, but I'm joined by the owner and executive producer of Nats Chat, Tim Shovers. And James Wood homered on Tuesday night. It was so nice to see that. It has not been often that we have seen that lately, but that did happen. James Wood homering, just his 4th home run since homering on July 9th. He also had a double and a walk. The Nationals, though, did lose. 3-2 loss at the Atlanta Braves in Game 2 of a 3-game series. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season fall to 64-94. Worst record in the National League East, 2nd worst record in the National League, 3rd worst record in the majors. The Nats in this month of September now are 11-11. 6 of the 11 losses have come against the Braves, who are on fire. They now have won 10 consecutive games. This installment of Nats Chat is brought to us by Window Nation. Buy 2 windows from Window Nation. Get 2 free and without paying anything for 2 years. This offer is good until the end of the month. 866-90-NATION, windownation.com. Tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from the Nats Chat podcast. Coming up on the show, starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore's season is over as he pitched in his last game for the Nats. Also, it is official, the automated ball strike challenge system is coming to MLB. But Tim, if not for the Braves, the Nats are 11-5 this month. The Braves are surging right now. There were, though, positives for the Nats on Tuesday night. Starting pitcher Brad Lord pitched well. And yeah, James Wood hit a home run. There was a time at which this would not have been some newsworthy event, but these days, this is a big deal. James Wood homering.
Yes, it is. So he's up to 28 now. It's only his 4th home run since the All-Star break. So he went into Atlanta for the All-Star break with 24 of them. And now you sort of have an interesting situation with Wood, bit of a double-edged sword, if you will, with 4 games left. If you want him to get 30 homers, if that's something you care about, because this year shouldn't be in the 20s, it really should be in the 30s the way it started, well, then you got 4 games left to hit 2 homers. However, he didn't strike out this evening, so 4 games left, 8 strikeouts separate him from Mark Reynolds. So do you want him in the lineup every day, all 4 games, to try and hit a few more homers to get up to 30? Or do you want him to sit another game or 2 to avoid Mark Reynolds' strikeout threshold? But regardless, on Tuesday night, he hit a homer and didn't strike out.
No, he did not, and that may be the biggest deal of all, right? Forget the homer, forget the double, forget the walk. And by the way, the walks have really dried up in recent months too, but him not striking out on Tuesday night was a big deal. For the record, I would keep playing Wood. I would not operate out of fear of the strikeout record. Let him keep playing. Let him keep accumulating plate appearances. And yeah, hopefully he does get to 30 homers. It's crazy, though, that it is far from a guarantee that he's going to get to 30 homers. 30 homers seemed like such a given not that long ago. 40 homers seemed like such a given not that long ago. But James Wood had a good game on Tuesday night. He is the Nats starting left fielder, a number 2 batter, went 2 for 3 with the solo homer, a double and a walk. Wood in a Nats 1-run 8th, a leadoff full count homer to right center field to cut the Nats deficit to 3-2. The homer going a projected 416 feet per StatCast, just his 4th home run since homering on July 9th. This was not a great game for the Nats offensively. Just 2 runs, just 6 hits, which were the homer, the double, and 4 singles. The Nats did work 5 walks, did go 2 for 5 with runners in scoring position. So Wood providing a good portion of the offense. I have wondered if at the end of the season we'll find out more about why James Wood has struggled these last few months. Like, I've wondered if maybe there's an ailment that he's dealing with, not necessarily an injury, but some sort of, nagging physical ailment that perhaps has derailed him. But I tell you, when you watch him play, he seems to be healthy. Maybe he's fatigued by the season, but he doesn't seem to be dealing with anything, certainly not outwardly. You wonder if maybe there has been something weighing on his mind. Like, why is it that the offense has gone the way that it has gone over these last few months? It really is baffling. But if he can end the season with a good handful of games here, that would be nice. And he clearly had a good game on Tuesday night.
My guess is it's a multitude of factors. It's his first 162-game season in the big leagues, mixed with, and I think this is the most important part, an interim manager coming in July. I mean, we all knew that Miguel Cairo was as interim gets, and I wonder just how much that affected Wood in a clubhouse that we talked about that clearly is bereft of veteran leadership. So I'm going to chalk it up to all of that, but I'm going to have an eagle eye on him along these lines in 2026.
The big question with James Wood is this. We know he's good. Is he elite? Is he great? Or is he just good? And that's what we're going to find out in the seasons to come. The way he was going into the All-Star break, you said to yourself, he's elite. Like, the Nats have something really, truly special in Wood. Now, you're kind of like, well, he's good. He's not a bad player, okay? But is he elite? Is he great, or is he just good? That's what you got to try to figure out here in the coming years. And, you can't arrive at any definitive conclusion on that after this season. But, of course, it all goes into the calculation of what he is as a player. His OPS for this regular season, 816. Again, that's good, but that is not elite. I mean, that OPS was at 958 as of games through July 3rd. That it is down to 816 as we are deep into September really is something. But as we have said, good game for Wood on Tuesday night. Daylen Lile was back. He returned from a 1-game absence caused by a left knee contusion. He is the Nats starting DH, and number 4 batter went 1 for 4 with a single. C.J. Abrams, he is the Nats starting shortstop, and number 3 batter went 1 for 4 with an RBI single. The Nats leadoff batter in this game was not James Wood, was not C.J. Abrams, was Nasim Nunez. He was the Nats starting second baseman. He went 0 for 3 with a walk and 3 strikeouts, also had a stolen base. And the Nats' usual starting second baseman, Luis Garcia Jr., he was the Nats starting first baseman. Yes, Luis Garcia played first base on Tuesday night. Played first base, in fact, for the first time in his MLB regular season career. He had never played first base in a regular season game at the major league level. He has the Nats starting first baseman, and number 5 batter went 0 for 4. So this is an interesting development. We know that he had been working at first base, that him actually playing in a game at first base was imminent. We did not know that. That had not been talked about, but it ends up happening here. And, with the obvious caveat of we don't know who's going to be running things in terms of baseball operations beyond this season, you would think that we are seeing the end of Luis Garcia Jr. as the Nats' regular second baseman, because whoever is running things moving forward, I don't know how you move forward with him at second base. He has had a wretched defensive season at second base. He actually looked pretty good at first base on Tuesday night. It's one game, so, who knows what that means. But this, I think, is really telling that the Nats saw fit to have him play first base this soon of having just started working at first base.
Before I get to Garcia and his defense, just 2 quick notes on Daylen Lile. One, he's at 814 on his OPS, so he's just behind James Wood at 816, as you mentioned. So the horse race of who has the higher OPS between the two. 4 games left on that one. Also, the fact that Daylen Lile played tonight confirms it wasn't a serious injury from sliding into the sidewall in New York. That's probably the best part of the entire game right there. But to Garcia, Al, I love that he played first base tonight. It's clear. It's done. I don't think we're ever going to see him playing second base ever again, or at least I hope so. And Luis Garcia Jr. should be given a shot to maybe be a first baseman. He's a little bit light as a bat. You want someone who regularly is in the 700s, I'd say, OPS to be your first baseman. But also where I'm going with this is, as Lile has emerged, and it's like, okay, Lile and Cruz could be the corner outfielders. Maybe James Wood, should he move into the infield or the DH? Where does Luis Garcia Jr. fit in? I think there's some puzzle pieces for the lineup for next year with existing pieces that could create some exciting lineups as we look towards next year. Clearly, this team needs a bit of a shakeup, obviously.
There's going to be change in terms of, how things are done. I certainly would think that that's going to be the case when it comes to the process of the Nats. And I think that process will include a lot more mixing and matching when it comes to where guys play. You see a lot of the analytically advanced teams do that. The Dodgers are famous for this, where, you take a guy, even a star player, and he plays at a multitude of positions. But when it comes to Garcia, I would say this: he's way light as a bat for first base. And this is my thing with him playing first base. Can he play a decent first base? Yeah, probably. Okay. A lot of guys can play a decent first base. Okay. It's not that challenging of a defensive position. If you have any kind of defensive skill, you should be able to play first base. But he's not a good enough hitter to play what is traditionally an offensive position. His OPS for this regular season is .689. That's not going to cut it. And so, I look at Garcia and I say to myself, I think what we're looking at here is a backup infielder. And, maybe he can be a super utility man and maybe that can be his value. But I don't want him as a regular first baseman, not with the way that he hits, which is, look, he's not like some horrible hitter, but you need to be a plus hitter, ideally a plus hitter, to be an everyday first baseman. He's not that. And so I don't know what the Nats do at first base moving forward because, if you spend big money on a lumbering first baseman, that kind of goes against what you're trying to do and goes against the way of current MLB. At the same time, the Nats need offense. And so for them to bring in a guy who hits for power and can play first base, I don't think that's crazy. But yeah, to your point, you have this abundance of outfielders. You're still trying to figure out exactly what you have in these outfielders. That's part of this too. But perhaps could you see one or more of those outfielders play some first base next season? I don't think that's crazy. I think there's merit to that. What I wouldn't want to do is take a guy as young and athletic as James Wood and just make it so that he only plays first base /DHs. Like, I think he's too young to be doing that. You still want him to play at least some in the outfield. I think there's value in that. You really lessen a player's value if you take him out of a premium defensive position or a more important defensive position and only have him play first base and DH. But, you could have a rotating situation where if you really like Wood, Cruz, Lile, and Hassel, and all four guys are going well, you start three guys in the outfield and the fourth guy DHs, or maybe play some first base. Like I said, there's a lot of mixing and matching that could be happening here. But yeah, Luis Garcia Jr. playing first base on Tuesday night. This is a thing that we see a lot in MLB, and I think in sports in general. When something is talked about as being inevitable, it ends up being imminent. We had this when Ryan Zimmerman moved from third base. It got talked about as, eventually the Nats are going to have to move him away from third base. And it wasn't eventually. It was the next season that he got moved from third base. And with Garcia, when we saw him working at first base, I know I said to myself, this is coming sooner rather than later, that he is out at second base. And sure enough, it looks like we are in the process of seeing that. Hey, as the end of the Nats season approaches, a salute to one of the great sponsors of the Nats Chat podcast, Window Nation. If you want new windows, if you need new windows, contact Window Nation. Tell Window Nation that Al Galdi from the Nats Chat podcast sent you. That helps out this podcast a lot, and that gets you a great deal on great Window Nation windows. In fact, now is the best time of year to get new windows. Whether you have old, drafty windows or cheap builder-grade windows, September is the perfect month to protect your home from cooler weather. And right now, Window Nation is offering its most popular offer: buy 2 replacement windows, get 2 for free. Plus, you won't pay any interest, pay any monthly payments, or pay any down payment for 2 years. 866-90-NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from Al Galdi on the Nats Chat podcast. With Window Nation, you get top quality windows from a trusted company, all at a reasonable price, because Window Nation knows that replacing windows is an investment. investment, and Window Nation wants to make the investment affordable to you. And do not miss this great offer from Window Nation. For listeners of the Nats Chat podcast, the offer is good until September 30th. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and you pay nothing for 2 years. 866-90Nation or windownation.com. That's 866-90Nation or windownation.com. And tell Window Nation that Al Galdi from the Nats Chat podcast sent you.
Young is running the pitch outside. Throw the second. Young slams on the brakes. Kim goes to run him down, dives, and he tagged him out. So Young was running first and third. House never bolted for home, really, until much too late. And Kim ran down Young anyway, going back to first to end the inning. Yet again, that first and third steal play does not work for the Nats.
They have run that so many times and not run it well at all this year.
Also in this game on Tuesday night, it happened again. The Nats tried the play, and the play did not work. And we have seen this so often during Miguel Cairo's time as Nats interim manager. What play am I talking about? Top of the fourth. The Nats had runners on first and third with 2 outs. Jacob Young was on first base. He took off for second base. The Braves threw down. Young tried to get in a rundown, but Brady House, who was on third base, turned and looked at Nats third base coach Ricky Gutierrez and then broke for home plate. But House broke for home too late. Young got thrown out on the attempted steal for the third out, and House did not score. How many times have the Nats tried this play with Miguel Cairo, and the play seemingly never works? I have never seen a team more committed to one play and more inept at one play than the Nats have been with this double steal with runners at the corners since Cairo took over as interim manager.
It's preposterous. It came at a terrible time from just trying to win this game. They're up 1-0, chance for a rally, and you knew that they missed a great opportunity there in the fourth inning. We all know that Miguel Cairo has less than a week on the job, but so I don't want to get too fired up about this, but it's totally ridiculous. And I don't know the mechanics of the play well enough, but how much do we blame Ricky Gutierrez and Gerardo Parra for this? I don't know what the base coaches factor in here, but Gerardo Parra could be retained because of his allegiance to the team and how much of a fan favorite he is. But I just want to say that I hope this is the last week that we see Gerardo Parra as the first base coach of the Washington Nationals.
It's hard to be impressed by any of these guys. You know, I think that there are good things you can say about Jim Hickey, the pitching coach, and Sean Doolittle and the work those guys have done with Nats pitchers. But beyond that, it is hard to be super impressed with this coaching staff. That is for sure. A positive for the Nats in this 3-2 loss at the Braves on Tuesday night beyond James Wood was the Nats starting pitcher Brad Lord. He was good again. 2 runs in 6 innings. He gave up 4 hits, which were 2 home runs and 2 singles. He had 4 strikeouts versus 1 walk. He threw a lot of strikes, 96 pitches, 63 strikes, just 33 balls. Lord gave up 2 lengthy solo homers, a 1-out solo homer by Michael Harris II to right center field in the bottom of the 5th to tie the game at 1, and a 2-out first pitch opposite field solo homer by Ronald Acuna Jr. to right center field in the bottom of the 6th for a 2-1 Braves lead. The projected distances of the homers per StatCast were 444 and 433 feet, respectively. But beyond the homers, this was another good outing for Brad Lord. The outing came at a team that, as mentioned, is tearing it up right now. 10 consecutive wins for the Braves. And you look at Brad Lord for this regular season as a rookie, over 2 stints in the rotation and 2 stints in the bullpen, 47 games, including 18 starts, ERA of 4.12, whip of 1.28. He is number 2 among all Nats pitchers in wins above replacement per Baseball Reference, 1.6 as of games through Monday. So that does not include what he did on Tuesday night. Starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore is number 1, 3.0 as of games through Monday. More on Gore coming up. But how about that with Brad Lord? If you go by WAR, he's been the 2nd most valuable pitcher on the Nats this season, starters and relievers. And on Tuesday night, a really nice outing at a team of the Braves that is doing quite well right now.
This is probably Brad Lord's final appearance of the season, and he would be my vote for pitcher of the year for the Nationals in 2025. I'd pick him over Gore. His ERA is slightly better. Not that that's the reason why at 4.12. He was hassled a little bit this year, yo-yoing back and forth in terms of his roles. I don't remember exactly when, but I wish he was moved as a starter earlier than he was. Nonetheless, a very impressive season. He's someone that you can count on to be in the starting rotation for next year, which is something we didn't at all imagine when spring training began earlier this year. So I want to give my props to Brad Lord. His homer that he gave up against Acuna, that was the third time through the order. He also gave up a solo homer in the fifth. And a note on Ronald Acuna Jr. If you are if you've been a listener with us since the first season of Nats Chat, and you've been thinking, man, I have heard Al talk about a Ronald Acuna Jr. homer a lot of times on this podcast. You are correct. Tonight, I believe, was his 14th home run in Nats Chat podcast history, and his first one came in Game 2 of 2021. So basically, this entire podcast has been about Ronald Acuna Jr. hitting homers. So he's averaged basically 3 homers a year against the Nats since we started this podcast.
That's crazy. You know, when Nationals Media Relations puts out stats, Media Relations often has to specify this is a record or this is a notable achievement for the Nationals franchise. So in other words, the Expos/Nats franchise, or since the Nats came to DC. So starting with the 2005 season. But perhaps there needs to be a third notation now, and that is in Nats Chat podcast history. So since the start of the 2021 season, I like how you're thinking there. The Nats relief pitching in this 3-2 loss at the Braves on Tuesday night. 3 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 2 innings. Connor Pilkington allowed 1 run in a third of an inning. He in the bottom of the 7th faced 3 batters, but got just 1 out. He to the first batter he faced gave up a leadoff homer by Michael Harris II to right center field on a 1-2 pitch to put the Braves up 3-1. That homer going a projected 424 feet per StatCast. Orlando Revolta tossed 2/3 of a scoreless and hitless inning. He in the bottom of the 7th faced 3 batters and got 2 outs. As yes, Revolta is back. The Nats on Tuesday afternoon announced having recalled him from AAA Rochester. And Julian Fernandez tossed a perfect bottom of the 8th with 2 swinging strikeouts. The Nats on Tuesday afternoon announced having recalled Fernandez from AAA Rochester. And as for why Revolta and Fernandez were recalled from Rochester, well, the seasons of 2 Nats pitchers now are done. The Nats on Tuesday afternoon announced having placed starting pitcher MacKenzie Gore on the 15-day injured list due to a right ankle impingement ending his season. And the Nats on Tuesday afternoon announced having placed reliever Mason Thompson on the 15-day injured list, retroactive to September 20th due to right biceps tendonitis ending his season. The big item here clearly is Gore. Second stint for him on the 15-day injured list this season. He was on that August 30th, retroactive to August 27th to September 11th. This due to left shoulder inflammation. A right ankle impingement ending his season. I mean, that doesn't sound like, a serious ailment, so it just sounds like sort of a nagging thing, and the Nats don't want to have him pitch again. But, you think about the 2025 season for MacKenzie Gore, great in the pre-All-Star break portion of the season, makes the National League All-Star team for this season, but struggles in the post-All-Star break portion of the season. And his final stats for the regular season really aren't that great. 30 starts, ERA of 4.17, whip of 1.35, strikeouts per 9 innings of 10.43. That's good, although that's down from where that number had been at. 17.65 pitches per inning, second highest among all qualified pitchers in the majors. What do you think is the appropriate way to look at MacKenzie Gore's 2025 season?
Good first half, bad second half. Bad might be an overreach, so like 1 notch above bad, but not mediocre, somewhere in there. If you look at his season, yes, all-star in the first half, but he has been in the 4s for ERA the entire August and September. It's not like this thing fell off the tracks in September. It really started in the back half of the summer, which, similar to what I was talking about earlier with James Wood, his performance went down ever since Miguel Cairo took over, ever since that the organization waved a white flag and said that we're done with this year. It's interim the rest of the way. So I don't know how much that tied into it, but I don't think it's a coincidence that both Wood and Gore went down after the All-Star game. I'm glad that Gore's season is done. He was awful last night. I'm going to take this injury as just sort of a nagging thing, like you said, and then he'll be all set for spring training next year. But, he really, the last few months, like the MacKenzie Gore experience is sometimes he looks like an ace, but a lot of times he looks far, far from it.
This was his age 26 season. He is under team control through the 2027 season. So 2 more seasons of team control. And it is going to be so interesting to see what whoever is running Nats baseball operations beyond this season does with MacKenzie Gore. Does the person retain Gore as a foundational piece, or does the person trade Gore as a means of supercharging this Nats rebuild that isn't working? And, not to be overly dramatic here, but have we seen MacKenzie Gore pitch in his last game as a Nat? I do think that that's possible. I don't know if that's probable, but I think if you're a Nats fan, you need to brace yourself for the possibility of massive roster change this coming offseason. Now, there is only so much you can do in a singular offseason. That is true. But there are some big moves that could be coming. I think MacKenzie Gore could be traded. I think C.J. Abrams could be traded. Who knows what else could be going down here? So just kind of keep that in mind that some big moves could be coming, especially if the person running baseball ops beyond this season is an external hire. Someone who comes in who is not wedded to any of these players, is not wedded to any of the previous ways of thinking by the organization. A whole lot could be happening here. So we shall see. I think MacKenzie Gore is a good pitcher, but like we talked about with James Wood, there's a difference between elite, great, good, and with Gore, he's pretty good. The hope is that he was very good. He was very good pre-All-Star break. He was not very good post-All-Star break. We've seen this now with him over the last few years where there is good, but there's also some not so good. And the overall body of work is an ERA over 4, a guy who has all the potential in the world and perhaps reaches that potential. For some starting pitchers, it takes a while and they don't blossom right away. It takes 4, 5, 6 years. But, the clock is ticking contractually. Like I said, he's only under team control for 2 more seasons, and that has to factor into how you view him if you are the Nats. Where are you going as a team? Where are you going with him? And would the best move to be to keep him, keep trying to develop him, or would it be to trade him? I would also throw this into the mix. If the Nats get more in on analytics, if the Nats get a better coaching staff, does the new approach, does the new coaching staff say, hey, there's another level we can get MacKenzie Gore to? Is MacKenzie Gore being held back by the way that the Nats have been run, with the lack of the Nats being as in on analytics as they should be, with the coaching staff perhaps not being as good as it should be? And could a new regime for the Nats perhaps bring the best out of MacKenzie Gore? That's a possibility too.
The trade market has gotten stingier over the years, so I don't know what a trade market looks like for MacKenzie Gore in a long off season, but all it takes is one team who wants to, turbocharge their rotation and is willing to make the move. Then you got to think, what sort of player or players would the Nats want in return for MacKenzie Gore? Because it's certainly a conversation. You cannot dismiss it, no matter how much of a fan of him you are and want him to remain with the Nationals. Would it be younger pitchers starting over? Would it be a first baseman? That seems like a light return right there. We just talked about how the roster's looking. Would it be, and I know this is a whole other conversation, would it be a starting catcher? Because the catching situation is extremely murky now moving forward. That's an entire conversation there. So right now, my guess is Gore does not get traded in the offseason. But again, we have no idea who's running things in a week, so that's totally what do I know on that one.
MacKenzie Gore for the Nats at the major league level in terms of his regular season outings, 89 games, all of which have been starts, 462 and a third innings, an ERA of 4.15, an ERA plus of 100. That is exactly league average. He has been exactly a league average starting pitcher over his 3 seasons with the Nats.
Make Walters your spot for this NFL season. All indoor TVs are preset and are first come, first serve. They're proud to show every NFL game every week.
C.J. Abrams, the batter. The pitch to the lefty hitter, smacked on the ground through the right side for a base hit. Nunez waved around third. He will come to the plate. Acuna's throw is cut off. Nunez scores standing, and it's 1-0 Nationals on the 2-out RBI single from C.J. Abrams.
Game 3 for the Nats at the Braves, Wednesday afternoon at 12:15. Andrew Alvarez will be the Nats' starting pitcher. We had big news in MLB on Tuesday afternoon. ABS, the challenge system, it is coming to Major League Baseball. The Joint Competition Committee on Tuesday afternoon voted to bring the automated ball strike challenge system, the ABS challenge system, to the majors. So this off several years of experimentation in the minor leagues, in MLB spring training, and in this year's All-Star game. So the ABS challenge system allows for each team to have 2 challenges for a 9-inning game. And what this is, in a lot of ways, is, okay, we're not going to just dive headfirst into the deep end of Robo Umps, but what we are going to do is get in the pool up to like our stomach or our chest and kind of see how it feels and then go from there. So this is sort of a middle ground approach to going to Robo Umps. But the ABS challenge system is one step closer to what I do personally want, and that is a full-time ABS system to call all balls and strikes and remove the human errors of home plate umpires. And most of these home plate umpires, I think, do a really good job. But calling balls and strikes is harder than ever before. Pitchers routinely throwing in the mid to upper 90s, teams with catchers emphasizing pitch framing like never before. It's just really hard to be right all of the time. You know, none of us are perfect. And so I do think going with a full-time ABS system to call all balls and strikes is the way to go. I know not everyone agrees with that. I personally am on board with that. I think we are headed in that direction. But for now, the ABS challenge system is coming, and I think that's a good thing, and I think teams are going to use this wisely next season. I think this is going to be something that's going to be a lot of fun to follow.
Overall, I'm not a fan. I do like, though, that baseball is sort of tiptoeing to this instead of jumping right in, as you said. I'm on Team Human on this stuff. I like the element of human error. I don't need perfect balls and strike calls. I like having umpires with bad reputations and sort of history with pitchers and things like that. So to me, the only thing that I would like to see with this is that it could somehow improve the speed of the game somehow with that. I don't know. We would have to see it in actual practice to see what this looks like, but I'm a little more lukewarm on this than you are.
Yeah, I just look at it like it's not easy calling balls and strikes. And I always get a kick out of on X when people put up the strike zone plots of a bad call by a home plate umpire or a bad plate appearance for a home plate umpire in terms of his calls. And it's like, well, this was a strike and you called it a ball, or this was a ball and you called it a strike. And it's like, yeah, this isn't easy to do, okay? This is hard. These pitchers are throwing so hard. These catchers are pitch framing like crazy. Not all of these umpires are exactly 25 years old, okay? Let's be honest about that part of it, too. And, like, you're not going to bat 1,000 on these calls. And so if you have a mechanism by which you can bat 1,000, okay, no pun intended, to me, you use it. I just think it makes all the sense in the world. But to your point, you like the human error, and that's fine. If you do like the human error, I would just say this. Don't complain when there is human error, because there is human error and there are plenty of people who like to complain. And to me, you can't have it both ways. Don't celebrate the human error and then whine and cry about it when we have it, okay? If you are pro-human error, that's fine. I get that sentiment. I get that philosophy. But then accept the human error when it happens, when it goes against you, when it goes against your team. I just would say that. But I do think that we're headed for the Robo Umps, but we're not there yet. Maybe we're a few years away. But for now, ABS challenge system coming for next season.
I will bring this to another sport. When instant replay started and really took off in football like 25, 30 years ago, really became a hardcore part of the experience. At first, I liked it. All right, they're going to get the calls right. I got to say, as a viewer, I think it slows down the game. I don't need every call correct in these football games. So I take that sort of to baseball as well. And to your point about not complaining, I got you. Not complaining. I forget who the umpire was, but in Game 5 of the 2019 World Series, one of the innings ended with Robles had a called strike 3 on him that was way above out of the zone, and the park went nuts. The park was jumping that half inning. People were booing, and it was a really electric atmosphere, and I think you lose that sort of stuff when you go with Robo Umps.
I don't think you're wrong in saying that. I get where you're coming from on that, and good on you for being pro-human error and not complaining. That is, I think, a perfectly acceptable way to attack this, but this is going to be interesting. I also would say this, too. A lot of the change in MLB that people are initially resistant to, it ends up looking better and better as time goes on, whether you're talking about the pitch clock or, even if you want to go way back, like the installment of wild card spots in MLB, like that was really controversial when that happened in the 1990s. And today it's like, oh, yeah, of course we have wild card teams,
Interleague play.
Interleague play, too. Exactly. So I would think that ABS challenge system eventually full time, if we get that. I think these are changes that over the long haul will come to be accepted and will come to look like good things, but we shall see. You tell us what you think. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can hit us up on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. This installment of Nats Chat is brought to us by Window Nation. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free without paying anything for 2 years. Offers good through the end of this month. 866-90Nation, windownation.com. Tell Window Nation that you want the deal that you heard about from the Nats Chat Podcast. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Tim Shovers, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast.
Diaz from the first base side of the rubber. Glove on his left thigh. Brings the hands together. 2-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Strike 3. Put it in the books. The New York Mets have regained control of their destiny as they came from down 5 runs in this game and win the opener of this 3-game series from the Cubs 9-7. Edwin Diaz works 2 perfect innings in relief, striking out 5 of the 6 he faces.